from WCIA 3 Plus. With Ethan Holesha and Tyler Hill, this is Midwest Mashup.
Welcome into the WCIA 3 Plus studios here in Champaign, Illinois. My name is Tyler Hill, and I'm laughing already because I say this every single episode, but we have so much to get through. I promise this time, because not only are we doing our normal game recaps, game previews, hitting 3 different professional sports, we also had a banger of a trade deadline, and here to talk about it all with me is Ethan Holesha, straight out of Oak Lawn, Illinois. Ethan, how you doing?
Dude, I'm doing good. Like you said, every week we say this, but I feel like this week especially, there's almost too much to talk about. We have off-season stuff with the Chicago Cubs, a lot going on there, and even some trade deadline moves within the NFL, which we're already talking about the games that happened and previewing the next game. So we have a lot to talk about in this episode.
Yeah, I'm sorry if your favorite sport, gets cut a little bit. Like we do genuinely have so much. I don't know how we're going to be able to hit it all in this hour, but
we'll find a way.
We are really, really going to try. So we'll get right into it. Stop pausing. The biggest news of this week would be Sauce Ahmad Gardner, corner out of Cincinnati, playing for the New York Jets, was drafted 3rd overall in his draft class, made 2 first-team All-Pros in his first 2 years in the league, was traded from the New York Jets to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2026 first, a 2027 first, and A.D. Mitchell. So we will go over what we think this means. Is the deal good for the Colts? But before that, what was just your reaction when you saw this notification come across your phone?
I wasn't even sure that it was like real because I first saw it on Twitter and I was like, okay, is this one of those, maybe fake accounts? But this is huge for the Colts. I mean, this is a guy that, could take the secondary to the next level. They're already struggling so much. And this tells me that the Colts are buying into this team and that they're in win now mode.
Which, hey, you can't really argue with that, right? We talked about how historically good this offense is. It still is, even despite a subpar performance against the Steelers this past week in Week 9. But the clear weakness, not just of the defense, but of the team, was the secondary and specifically the corner spot. Their safeties actually, I think, are pretty good. Can't mind them, Nick Cross.
Yep.
But they were starting Xavier Howard at the beginning of the year. He retired. Mekhi Blackman is a guy who is fine as probably your 4th or 5th corner. If he is your starting outside corner at 5'9", 180, you don't really like that. Jalen Jones coming off an injury. Charvarius Ward right now is on IR, but has played really well to this point. It's just getting that second corner spot locked down, and boy, did they with Sauce Gardner. I think he made the All-Pro team his first 2 years, right? And then people have been talking about how he has fallen off a little bit. I think that's been overblown. Now, he is not the best corner in the league like he was his first 2 years. Right. But I think he is very solidly in that 3 or 4 spot.
100%. He's right up there with the best of the best. Maybe just a peg down now. But honestly, you could even blame part of that on the situation. When guys are on a team that is struggling year after year, it could either be motivation or
is he checked out mentally?
Yeah, and the supporting cast around him. And we see that so many times where a contender or a great team will handpick a guy and kind of revitalize their performance. Like we saw you put in the doc here with Jalen Ramsey. That's a good comparison. Yes. And, he went to LA, got them a Super Bowl. I think Sauce could easily be, this X Factor guy for the rest of the season here on out for the Colts.
No, totally agree. Getting that Ramsey trade, because this was the only comparison historically when it came to trading a corner of this level to a team. And that was actually in the offseason. It wasn't even during the season. So there is still a little bit of a difference there. But Ramsey at this point was 25, which was also, that's how old Sauce Gardner is. I think this is a very good comparison. Los Angeles sent 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick to the Jaguars to tack an extra 4th compared to the Sauce Gardner deal. Ramsey had also made 2 All-Pros at this point. I think he was probably a better player then than Sauce is now, but it's still very close. And so that's where I think probably that 4th round got tagged in. This is a lot to give up, but it just comes down to whether you think the Colts are a real team or if they're a fraud. If you think they're a fraud, then you don't think they're ready for this type of move. They need to keep those picks because Daniel Jones might turn back into a pumpkin, maybe Sam Darnold in the last 2 games last year for the Vikings, right? And then those picks will maybe be in the late teens, early teens, and you still need to find a quarterback. If you're a Daniel Jones believer, which we have been on the podcast so far, yeah, right. Again, hand up, right? We were not that in the offseason.
Right.
But if you think that he's a good player and will continue to be a top 10-ish quarterback at least, then they have everything they need right now outside of the 1 corner position. And so you get that done and make a Super Bowl run.
No, I agree. And I think the Colts are probably in a position now where I don't think they saw themselves sitting at 7-2, probably going into the season at this point. So they're like, we have on paper one of the best offenses of the 2000s, or since 2000, I should say. And they're like, why not buy in? We're in this spot right now. We're basically the top seed in the AFC, and I don't know. It's just it's interesting. The Colts secondary, like you mentioned, just how many yards they're giving up 244 passing yards a game, which is 26th. The third down defense has been a little, suspect, but getting Sauce provides that top tier cornerback position that I think this defense needs to get to the next level.
Yes. So I for one am for this trade.
Me too.
And, we will see how it goes. And on that note, where do you think the Colts need to get in the next just 2 years, we'll call it, because the first round picks are for the next 2 years, to make this trade justified? Is it the AFC Championship game? Is it getting to the Super Bowl? Is it winning the Super Bowl that would make you think, okay, this trade is a justified trade?
I mean, like getting to the AFC Championship game this year would be like, okay, yeah, like, this trade's looking.
That's where I'm at too.
Even on both sides. A Super Bowl appearance, I mean, that's very, very hard to do in this league. I could see this team surprisingly maybe making the Super Bowl this year. If things continue on to next year, maybe, Daniel Jones even gets more comfortable in this offense in year 2 with the Colts. But yeah, I think an AFC Championship game this year more than justifies this trade just happening right now. Because even with getting Sauce now, it's in the middle of the season. That would be a huge, quick turnaround for them to get that far in the season.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that is the bar. If you lose in the wild card divisional, however that goes, I would go, okay, it's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But making that AFC Championship game or anything beyond, obviously, I think is a great outcome for this trade. Last thing here, Gardner is already on a contract for the next couple of years because he signed his rookie extension. So in 2025, just bear with me for some numbers here. 2025, he will be making $625,000. So counting almost nothing against the cap.
Yep.
2026 next year will be $9.5 million. Then this is when the extension kicks in. 2027 will be $20.9 million. 28, 26.2, then 36.1 and 36.1 to round out the deal. So right now, pretty below market deal. You are paying him a lot, but just in terms of comparing him to guys like Derek Stingley, Pat Surtain, he is making money under that number. So I think that you got him on a pretty solid contract as well. Now, not as exciting, but the Bears also did make a move in terms of this trade deadline. They acquired defensive end, and I'm going to nail this, Joe Tryon Shoyinka.
Yep. Got it. Bang.
And
totally right.
And a 7th round pick, sending the rounds a 6th round pick. So basically you get the player in a swap and you go back in exchange for getting him. So right now has 15 sacks in his career, 0 this year for the Browns, and it averages 34 tackles a year. That is all according to Pro Football Reference. Not as big of a deal, like we said, not making your jaw drop when the ESPN notification comes across the phone. But what did you think initially?
I mean, it's fine. Obviously, I would have liked a guy like Trey Hendrickson, some of those names that were popping off as potential trade candidates, but it just feels like a pretty low cost, minimal risk depth piece.
And I think that's why they did it, because it's reported that the Bengals wanted a first rounder for Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
I think that would have just been a bad move. So I can see maybe being scared off by the price when it comes to Hendrickson.
Yeah, and Tryon Shoyinka, who we signed, 0 sacks, 5 tackles in 8 games this year. But he didn't start any games this year. Maybe it kind of reminds me of like a Dio situation where we're bringing in a guy that, hey, he's physically gifted.
Tracy, for sure.
He's still in his 20s, so it's like maybe we can get something out of him that these other teams he was on weren't getting out of him. But like I said, I hope he proves me wrong, but it kind of feels just like a low risk, moderate potential move. Just to fill a hole while Dio's out.
Yeah, I was saying we should mention this. Dio Odengbo season-ending Achilles injury on Sunday, and so they were looking for somebody that replacement. And what this says to me, even more than just, hey, we need depth, is I think they believe in Austin Booker.
Oh, 100%.
Is, hey, we're going to give him a shot to be that starter type of guy that we took in the 5th round out of Kansas. And man, he was, I would say, probably the lone bright spot on defense that we'll get into in this past game against the Bengals.
It was crazy, man.
Great strip sack from him, though. And,
yeah.
He's coming off IR and looks really good. And so I think that, hey, they're just going to trust their draft evaluation there and see if he can fill that spot with Dio going out. Switching gears from football to baseball, like you said, the Cubs have made a couple different moves here. First one, Shota Imanaga in the Cubs, both the way it was reported is they mutually declined the option that he had, making a left-handed pitcher a free agent. What do you have here, Ethan? Good move or not when it comes to Imanaga?
I think on the Cubs end, it's a good move, and I expected Imanaga to decline the $15 million offer because they can now offer him a qualifying offer for this year for $22 million. but only give him like this year, if that makes sense.
Right, a 1-year deal.
So I think because Imanaga, he tailed off a little bit at the end of the year, maybe the Cubs were thinking like, hey, let's not guarantee the next few years of him on the team. Let's maybe feel it out. Now, I do think the Cubs will give him this qualifying offer for that next year, but I feel like as of right now, just based on the second half of the season and the playoffs, they might not be as high on him, especially with their ace Justin Steele coming back next year. And when I first saw this, I was surprised, but just talking to some people that are, more even locked in on baseball than we are, it seems like it kind of makes sense for both sides, and just to take it by like a year by year basis.
Yeah, and if you're Imanaga, if you're going to make $7 million more, it's like, why would you not
Exactly.
decline that option? So his stats last year, he was 9-8 with a 3.73 ERA, 117 strikeouts to 26 walks. That is in 144 2/3 innings. Missed some time with some hamstring injury.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of seemed to be the Cubs last year. Was a lot of guys missing time with injury, getting nicked up. So
even playing through injuries, it was detrimental to the Cubs last year.
Exactly. A minute left in this segment. The other thing, Cubs trading reliever Andrew Kittredge, another pitching move here to the Orioles for cash considerations. Allows the Cubs to save the $1 million buyout. They get some money back, right? So I wonder if these moves are even connected. They're saying, okay, we're going to have to pay Mononga a little more. Maybe we're looking to re-sign Kyle Tucker. So we're going to get some cash back. And, we're moving on from a guy who's fine. He was a good player, but it's not a franchise definer by any means.
Yeah, and they got him from the Orioles in the middle of the season. They're kind of just giving him right back. Kittredge was good in relief, but, he's coming out of the bullpen. He's a 35-year-old guy, so he's coming towards the tail end of his career. It just makes sense from a money standpoint. This is definitely a replaceable guy, and like you said, they might allocate those funds towards this qualifying offer to bring Imanaga back, and maybe in the future to sign him to a longer-term deal.
Ooh, that was a lot that we went through, and
we killed it.
We haven't even gotten to games yet.
Yeah.
So after the break, we will start talking about games. Barn burner, Bears versus Bengals. Ethan's heart rate was exploding out of his chest.
Brutal.
Texting back and forth the whole game, and then really a very sloppy game. Pretty much the other side of the coin. Colts, Steelers. We will break all that down and more next. Welcome back to Midwest Mashup. Just hit a ton of personnel between football and baseball. But now we're talking about the actual games. What happened in Week 9 on Sunday? Like I said, it was a tale of two different games, Ethan, between the Colts and the Bengals and what they got into in Week 9. We're going to start with the Bears, start off on a positive note here. Bears take care of the Bengals 47-42. I mean, that was a heck of a game.
Dude.
How did you manage as a Bears fan? How did you get to the game without passing out on your couch?
What a game. That's how we'll put it. I mean, this game was locked, like with 2 minutes left. Tremaine Edmonds gets that interception that we think is brought back for a touchdown. He's ruled down by Chase Brown, former Illini, touched him. But then the Bengals come down and score 2 touchdowns in 59 seconds. And now we're like, here we go. Are the Bears really going to lose this game? Obviously, late game magic from Caleb again, and Loveland having the game of his career. But dude, I was blowing Tyler up. Like I probably sent him 10 straight texts, and I was losing my mind.
It just went from it's so over to we're so bad.
Yeah,
just so quickly.
After the game ended, I didn't even know how to feel, because I'm like, it shouldn't have got to that position. But that last drive from the Bears was just electric.
So we're gonna queue up some highlights here. It's the end of the game.
Oh
on
gosh!
So this is just Caleb running around, and we'll get cheered up. I think it's the second play here. This is going to get first down on this last 2 minute drive. Unreal run. You see this capability, talent there, obviously, and then the play we were just talking about, a seam down the seam. Colson Love just makes 2 guys miss, using the speed. That's why he's a first round pick. Pat tight ends look like he could run away from PBs like that, and sends the Bengals home pack. And you hear the cheers here. I want to hit on one thing with this, breaking the game down even more. You had a friend who went to the game.
Yeah. Shout out Joey.
And he sent us some pictures, and we were blown away by how many Bears fans showed out for this game at Cincinnati.
Yeah, he was there, and he was live texting me during the game, and he said it felt like a home game. Like he said there were definitely more Bears fans there than Bengals fans. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I feel like the Bengals are definitely a team that has a solid fan base, but the Bears, I guess when they're good and they're trending, it's like, they travel, man. The fans travel. You love to see it. It's great.
Yeah, Bears fans showing up, like you said, making it a home game. So there's this guy Adam Archuleta. Don't know if you know him. I didn't know who he was before this game. This is the analyst that was on the CBS broadcast for this game. Man, what's up with this guy, right? Just constantly killing Caleb. The funniest thing to me was when he started the game, it was, hey, take your check downs, right? Don't scramble so much. I'm like, okay, that's fair. I think that's an overblown criticism of Caleb. Like, that's just the default people go to. But you know what? That's fair. Take your check downs, whatever. And then Caleb starts trying to take his check downs, and then he flips to saying, hey, you need to, you got yards here, run. It was one of the first things I noticed. And normally I'm taking notes about the game, but I just couldn't stop thinking about how unfair he was being to Caleb in this game.
It was unreal. It was like he does one thing, he criticizes the other. He literally does exactly what Adam Archuleta wants him to do, and he's like, you know what? Never mind. The exact opposite thing is what
that's
I'm gonna
dumb. Where would he ever get that idea from?
Yeah.
And you think, you?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It felt like Troy Aikman all over again. I would argue that this was honestly worse.
This was 100%.
It was comical. I mean, Caleb, 20 of 34 for 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, not to mention 53 rushing yards and 2 catches, including a receiving touchdown. What else do you want this guy to do? He's going to miss throws. He's an NFL quarterback. Like, it happens,
That's the thing that really got me is the way that Caleb is being evaluated. Again, I know we're pulling out of the game again a little bit. We will break it down. But the narrative around Caleb is people nitpick every single little thing. Like, he needs to be perfect to justify where he was drafted, to fulfill expectations in Chicago, whatever it might be. And I just hate to tell you, like, this is not how quarterbacking works. Like, if you evaluated Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, whoever you want to put in that top 10-inch grouping of quarterbacks, if you evaluated them like most people are evaluating Caleb, you would come away thinking that they're not good quarterbacks. And now I want to be clear, Caleb is not on that level yet. No. He is, I would say, a firmly top half of the league quarterback, not quite yet a top 10 quarterback, but trending.
I think that's fair.
But you listen to people like this, and you would think he's the worst quarterback that's ever played football. And it just blows my mind again. And you said the stats. This is a very solid performance, up there with the Cowboys being for the best performance Caleb has had to date in this season. And I want to contrast him with somebody in his draft class, because J.J. McCarthy is the other guy that is in his pseudo-rookie year this year with the Viking. Got hurt last year. It was in the injury in camp. Held him out the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. J.J. McCarthy has not played well. He played one good quarter in the Bears game, in that week 1 game. Right. And even that, when we hit on it, it was mostly the run game, having 80 yards in that fourth quarter. Gets NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Blew my mind. And then his second game was not very good. Sprained his ankle and has been out until this past week. Now, J.J. McCarthy played another 3 bad quarters this time. He played good in the first quarter. And then when it came to the last 3 quarters, he had 24 dropbacks from quarters 2, 3, and 4. Okay. He had 48 passing yards. Yeah, that's 2 yards per dropback. And it's okay, right? It's okay that he is not playing very good right now. He is, again, in his pseudo-rookie year. But I don't understand the people that are talking about Caleb the way that they are. And then those same people, a lot of times, are saying, hey, J.J. McCarthy is having a good rookie season. And I just don't understand the different contrast there.
I think part of it is, like you said, Caleb got drafted first overall. He's one of the best college prospects in recent memory. And then the Bears should have taken Jaden. They should have taken Drake May thing. And then you throw a guy like J.J. McCarthy there. But if you just watch these guys play,
look at that throw.
Caleb is far and away a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy. Other than talent, decision making, his ceiling, just the capabilities. And for one, he has so much more experience already at the NFL level. Yeah. I would take Caleb 100 games out of 100 if I had to pick between the two of who I want to win my game.
Not close right now. And the biggest thing, you saw in the highlights there, the sack of wins that Caleb has. It was awful his rookie year, but this year it has been so good. Yeah. J.J. McCarthy has a pressure to sack rate. So this is how many times you get sacked divided by the amount of times you've been pressured. Mm-hmm. It's 40%.
Man, that's not good.
That is astronomically bad. Caleb is at 14%. Yeah. You are negating so many negative plays, and that's so valuable. There's a stat, and I forget the exact percentage. Basically, the point of it is that if you take a sack on a drive, it kills your chance at getting 8 points. And JJ is taking a ton of those, 5 sacks this past game. So, I don't want to sound like I'm hating on JJ McCarthy, because, again, he is 3 games in. I think he can get a lot better. You cannot base your entire player evaluation of what somebody's going to be in the NFL off of 3 games. But as I was sitting there watching and listening to another analyst just nitpick every little thing that Caleb does, and then those same type of people heap praise on JJ McCarthy because he just wins. He's not the reason they're winning. It just makes me very frustrated.
Yeah, and to say that he just wins and comparing these two, the Bears just put up 47 points. Like,
a lot of points.
Hey, that's a lot of points. I know they played the Bengals, whatever, and I know the Vikings just played the Lions, but the reason they won that game was definitely not because of JJ McCarthy at all.
The defense really got after Jared Goff. He took 5 sacks in that game as well.
Yeah.
We're going to move on because we have to. Kyle Monangai.
Dude,
What a guy.
beast.
But
Yeah.
26 carries, 176 yards, also reeled in 3 catches on 22 yards, those checkdowns that Archuleta was talking about. Really liked what he did this game. And I think it might be time to give him the backfield here instead of DeAndre Swift.
Dude, I think you should ride the hot hand. It's like a comparison that I have is like when they tried to funnel Hubbard back in Carolina this year. It just hasn't been working. So
No.
they gave Dowdle the hot hand last week, and he's been popping off. And yes, DeAndre Swift has had a few very good games this year, but I almost feel like at this point, it seems like everything Swift can do, Monangai might be able to do better.
Yeah, just more physical is the bigger one that I saw, and then a little bit better vision. Now, it's not perfect. He is still a rookie in terms of trying to find
And that's going to come with time.
But, man, I just loved how physical he runs. He is a guy who's 5'8". I think he's almost 215 is what they were saying. He's listed at. Like, he is a bowling ball out there. So love to see him get some more touches. The other guy, real quick, that we'll hit on before we go to break, Colston Lovely. You saw him score the game-winning touchdown. Also had another touchdown in the red zone on a early slant. 6 catches, 118 yards, and 2 touchdowns overall. Great to see the breakout game from the Bears first round.
Yeah, and he stepped up when Kmet got hurt, and he's NFC Offensive Player of the Week. It's huge. It's like with Monangai and Loveland, I love this next guy up mentality where it's like, hey, our starter who might not, shouldn't be the starter right now. It puts them in a position where they have to perform, and they more than performed this week. These 2 rookies, they were the MVPs of this game for the Bears, no doubt.
For sure, we will ignore the defense and special teams because they gave up 470 passing yards to Joe Flacco, not Joe Burrow, Joe Flacco. Steve Higgins looked like a monster. They allowed a kickoff return and a missed field goal. So not a great day. We're going to focus on the positives for the Bears. And when we get to our game previews, we'll hit on why some of that is a little bit worrisome. We got to take a quick break here, but after that, we will hit the Steelers-Colts game very quick and then get into the rest of what we have for you today. Welcome back to Midwest Mashup. My name is Tyler Hill. We're coming off of breaking down the Bears game, which was barn burner, a lot of stuff going on back and forth. Also, the Bears win 47-42. The complete opposite game was the Steelers beating the Colts 27-20. This one is going to be a quicker breakdown because the offense for the Colts just played horrific. It was 6 turnovers, 3 fumbles. One of them was on a punt return hit off Josh Downs, so not all this on the offense, and then 3 picks from Daniel Jones. And that is just where this game was lost by the Colts and won by the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, Jones had the 3 picks and the 2 fumbles lost, so 5 turnovers from him. That's just, you're not going to win games when you turn the ball over 5+ times. JT didn't get going, 14 carries for a season low, 45 yards. That's just over 3 yards a carry. Not good. And the offensive line allowed 5 sacks. Nothing really went right. I mean, if you look at the stats from this game, some of the receivers, a couple of the Colts receivers, Alec Pierce and Pittman, they racked over 100 yards, but just in those crucial moments, the Colts felt the quality. They were throwing the ball away. They were able to move the ball like across the field, but just not execute. The execution was horrible in this one.
Yeah, when I went back and watched the film, it was a lot of very good plays. Mm-hmm. And then there were a lot of just very bad plays. And obviously just kill drives. They give short fields for the Steelers. The Colts averaged 5 yards per play, which is the lowest of the season by half a yard. Just not a very good performance. Like you say, JT didn't get it going. There were some opportunities, but I think what really happened is that these runs that normally you see a little crease and he breaks them off for 20, 30, 40, even 80 yards sometimes. Those were showing for 5 yards. He was getting tripped out, tackled, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that kept the offense from being as explosive. The other thing, the tackles, I think, had the worst game. You saw in one of those highlights, TJ Watt winning on a speed rush. That was a big theme. They just lost to speed rushes all day, and it led to those strip sacks. So not a very good performance from the offense, but not just for the Colts, but specifically drilling down on this offense. Is this something you're worried about long term, or is this more of a fluke?
I don't think so. I think I like the way that you put it. I do think this is more of a fluke. These games just kind of happen sometimes for whatever reason. Maybe a guy's just not feeling himself that day, And the Steelers, they came in. They have a guy like T.J. Watt, who's he's going to be a wrecker at times because he's still a very talented player. But yeah, and the Steelers kind of just capitalized. Like after that strip sack that led to a touchdown. When turnovers turn into points, it can become hard for a team to come back and kind of play themselves into this game. Now, the Colts had a chance at the end of the game, but then Jones ultimately threw an interception. But it's like even when the offense is playing this bad, I'm not saying the Steelers are a Super Bowl contender or anything, but they only lost the game by 7 points.
Right.
So, and that's kind of a big takeaway in and of itself.
Yeah, I like that spin on it. Even it's kind of like the Rams game where they had those two very big negative plays taking away touchdowns and still were able to compete with a good team. I think the Steelers are, like you put it, a good team, maybe not a great team. So love that they stayed. And it, defense on the other side, they did their best. They only allowed 3.7 yards per play.
That's not bad.
That's tied for the 15th lowest of any game in this NFL season. So part of that is because they had short fields, so there's not as much opportunity for explosive plays.
Right.
But overall, this was a pretty good defensive performance. I actually want to highlight here real quick, 2.5 sacks, tied for the most in the NFL this week.
Love to see that.
This is a good unit. Things get healthy, and adding also for that as well. Any big takeaways from your defense?
No, I think they held their own. And like you said, I was thinking the exact same thing that you said, just adding Sauce Gardner into this. I'm really excited to see the defense this week. We have a big matchup, obviously, that we're fitting into coming up for them this week. But I think the defense is kind of right where they need to be at. They kind of kept them in this game despite giving up 27 points. The defense was put in a lot of bad situations because of the turnovers.
I mean, 6 turnovers, and a lot of those were in the red zone.
Yeah.
And to only give up 27 points on that to a Steelers offense that I would say is about average. I mean,
they're fine.
That's a pretty good performance, and not all you can ask for defense in that scenario.
Exactly.
I think this team needs a bye week pretty bad. Yeah. And I was thinking about it because the Bears had a really early bye week, and this is it's not too late. It's not, I think week 14 is the last one that you can have a bye week for any of the teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But man, they've played a lot of games in a row. This is 9 now, going to be 10 when they go to play Atlanta in Berlin. So I think that this would be a great time for the bye week. And again, we talk about Sauce Gardner. It'd be nice to have that bye week to get him up to speed in a pretty complex defense. But 100%. I think that we are both in agreement here. Fluky game. Colts are not overrated. The Steelers just do this sometimes where they are really good on special teams. They make stuff happen. I don't know how they are still going 9-8, 10-7 with a roster like they have. But, but it's games like this, honestly, where it seems like they have some type of magic on their side to get some of these type of games.
It's death, taxes, and the Steelers going at least 500.
Yes.
Those are the 3 things in life. Tomlin's been there for, it feels like, almost 20 years and has not had a losing season.
No.
I mean, that is insane. And the Steelers, like you said, it doesn't matter what the roster looks like. They just find a way. They're always gritty. Like they just find a way to get it done somehow. And this is kind of just one of those games for the Colts. Even great teams have bad games like this sometimes. We saw the Chiefs lose to the Jaguars in a fluky way. And obviously the Chiefs might not be as good this year as in years past, but it's like the Colts are fine. This is a fluky game and it happens.
You're playing 17 games. You're not going to be perfect in all of them. And you can say that about any contender team in the AFC. I like how you hit on that. The Chargers have had their fluky games. Bill was saying thing like, no team right now looks perfect, and no team in any season is going to look perfect, really outside of that one Patriots team. So, moving on to basketball here.
Let's do it.
The Bulls.
Dude, what's going on?
Talking about Chicago sports.
Are we seeing
Bulls,
red?
They are 6-1. They are the 1 seed by half a game. It is early, but they are the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw this coming, especially with Kobe White, who was marketed as their best player, still not playing in any of these games.
Yeah. Josh Giddey, that's pretty much the answer that I had. He's had, in the last 2 games at least, back-to-back triple-doubles. Only other Bull to ever do that, Michael Jordan. May have heard of him.
Pretty good guy.
Pretty good player.
Yeah.
But he's already 3rd all-time in franchise history in triple-doubles, and he's been here for a couple of seasons. So, I mean, the first game that we're going to talk about is the first game against the Knicks. He had 32 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. That got the Bulls to 5-0, and the offense is just firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
It's crazy. And, we playing a team back to back, obviously they lost that second game to the Knicks. The defense has maybe been the one thing where it's, a little bit of a concern.
Right. But I was looking, and I will say this before the Sixers game we'll talk about, but
Yeah.
they were 10th in defensive rating, and so maybe a slightly above average defense.
Yeah.
Not great.
Right. Yeah. And giving up 125 plus points in back-to-back games. I understand the Knicks are a good team. They're a playoff team, might be even a contender in the East, when things are rolling, but you're not going to win every game. It's like we talked about with the NFL even. There's 82 games, you're going to lose. Great teams lose 20 games in a season. So these games happen. And then the Sixers game, I was watching this live. I actually went to the gym when they were down 24 points. I get back, they're down 1. Vooch hits that crazy three-pointer off the pass where Giddey kind of just looks like he's driving in the lane, just passed it to no man's land. But it's great to see Giddey, such a young player, like just be so calm, cool, and collected in these situations. The Bulls are fun right now. That's the only way I could really put it.
Really fun. And I was trying to think of the last time they were this fun, and it had to be that Lonzo Ball Chicago team, Alex Caruso, when they were. It was even a different type of fun because they were more really, really good defensively.
Yes.
And then DeRozan would hit game-winning shots pretty much. It felt like every week he was hitting a different game-winning shot.
There was 2 straight games I remember that year that he hit buzzer beaters. Like I think it was the first time, at least in Bulls history, where it was back-to-back buzzer beaters, 4 wins. That year they were the 1 seed halfway through the season, and that's where they're kind of at right now. Obviously, it's very early, like you said, but it just feels like the culture is different. There's so many guys scoring in double digits every game. Josh Giddey's almost averaging a triple-double. Vooch is having his best year so far with the Bulls. Everything's just kind of going right now.
Yeah, it looks very good. The other thing, when you talk about culture, I think the perfect way to describe it is this Sixers game when you go down 45-27 in the first quarter and you then claw back. You don't roll over. You outswin the Sixers by 21 in the second half to win that game 113-111. We're going to take a quick break here and then finish up with the Pacers. Unfortunately, not having as good of a season.
Yeah, but it's kind of out of their control.
I was going to say this season, I think it's just going to go like that, and maybe you want to prep for next season and see what kind of draft pick you get. But we will hit all that and then preview some football and hit NHL as well right after the break. Welcome back to Midwest Mashup here, talking pro sports in Chicago, Indianapolis, and St. Louis. Sticking in Indianapolis here for the Indiana Pacers, a team that was so good last year, and unfortunately, because of injuries and so many other things, not as great a team this year. Ethan, I think the emotion, at least for me when I think of the Pacers, it's just sadness, right?
Yeah, it's brutal. They can't catch a break. I mean, we talked about it last week. They had 8 players injured, 7 of those being guards. And you're just, I mean, even if you play lower level teams, you're not going to win games when half your team's out. It's crazy. They signed a guy like Mac McClung to a deal, and it's like, this is a guy who's been in the G League for most of his
I was saying
career.
there's a reason that he's been in the G League for, 80% of his career.
Yeah, and they're kind of just picking at straws here, and we're seeing that with the results and the outcomes of some of these games.
Yeah, so wrapping up the games in this past week, they did get their first win. So happy days.
Yep.
114-109 over a good Warriors team that came into Indianapolis and just didn't play up to their standard.
Yeah.
We'll show here's highlights. My wife's dad actually gives us a intro right here. Fun field house. It's Cambridge Field House. Very fun place to watch. Very clean. It's an almost brand new stadium. And then not as good as Giannis hitting this game winner. Bucks take it over the Pacers 117-115 in that game.
Yeah.
And what I wrote down, because I was really interested to see the Pacers' identity last year was a ton of pace. They're running up and down the floor. They're pressing you all over the court, and then they are shooting and making a lot of threes. So right now, they're shooting 24.2% from 3. Or sorry, that's not right now. That was in the Bucks-Pacers game. Right now, they're dead last in 3-point percentage overall at 30.2%. Last year, which again, I know it's early, they're only 7 games in, 8 games in, depending on the schedule and depending on which team is played, had all weeks up like that. But they were 9th in the league at 37%. And so it just, the team's identity with Halliburton being out, you talk about all the rest of the guards, but I think it really is mostly Halliburton.
100%.
It's gone at this point.
Because he is the Pacers.
Yes,
when you think of the Pacers, it's Cyrus Halliburton. That was the Nets' first win of the season yesterday. So now both of these teams are 1-7. And a guy like Michael Porter Jr., he went off for 30-plus points. But, yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do with these injuries, and that's the unfortunate part of it. Obviously, Quentin Jackson had a good game, 25-10 in that win, and they came back from down 11 with 6 minutes left. So that was nice to see. But this is kind of just going to be how the season goes with the Pacers, with these injuries.
Yeah, I didn't know who Quentin Jackson was. I'll put that out.
Yeah, hand up. I had no idea. Yeah.
So we're gonna do a quick Google here. Actually, I know this is amazing podcasting, right? But just to get his basketball reference page up, because I don't want to not give credit to a guy who dropped 25 in an NBA game. That means he's a pretty good basketball player.
First career double-double too, and 12 of his points came in the fourth quarter. So.
Yeah, 6'5", 175. We're gonna give him some love here. Played for the Washington Wizards in 23, and then has been on the Pacers ever since. When you look at his game log, he's not a great player, but hey, now he's getting his chance to show what he can do on this Pacers team. Again, as Ethan said, that last game, the Pacers lost 112 to 103 to the Nets. A team playing guys like Noah Clowney and Cam Thomas, who does not want to pass the ball.
Nope.
Not a good season. I don't know. I would struggle with stuff like this, and it was a thing we happened to see. It was Cardinals, where it's just this is kind of a lost season, right? And so we still want to give you time, Pacers fans, because you are a Pacers fan, want to cater to you, but it's I think unfortunately there's just not going to be a ton to talk about. But this draft class looks really, really good, and so maybe you are able to get another franchise cornerstone. Switching gears here from the hardwoods to the ice.
Yes,
the Blackhawks 6-5-3. They're currently 5th in the Central Division. The past games they had this week, it started off with a 3-2 loss at the Oilers, then lost 3-1 at Seattle, then pulled up the nose and playing here, winning 5-2 at Vancouver. Which, Ethan, whether it's a game, a performance, or any theme stood out to you from these 3 games?
Yeah, I just like, I guess the first game, overtime loss to the Oilers, who's a team that has made the finals the last 2 years.
Really?
That's great. Spencer Knight stopped 27 to 30 shots. And, I'm going to talk about him in this past game. Looking forward to Vancouver. We'll kind of skip over the Kraken game just because it was kind of a boring game. In that game, though, that was Burakovsky's 3rd straight game with a goal. So he's been stepping up. But we played Soderblom, who's the backup goalie, in this game last night at Vancouver. The sole reason we were even in that game was because Spencer Knight stopped 35 shots in the first 2 periods.
A lot of shots to stop.
He stood on his head. And then, the floodgates, they came open. Tyler Bertuzzi, who's a guy that's not really even known for scoring much in this part of his career. He's kind of just that physical guy. He had a hat trick in the 3rd period, 3 goals alone. That's huge. And it's the 4th of his career, first with the Blackhawks. And Spencer Knight gave up 2 goals late in the game, one with 3 minutes left. And then once the Canucks pulled their goalie, gave up another goal there. But luckily, he was able to pass the puck down to Bedard, scored an empty netter. And Bedard's actually from Vancouver. So this is his first goal in his hometown. And it's great to see the Hawks are really just fighting in these games. And it doesn't seem like they're ever getting blown out even when they lose.
Yeah, it seems like a perfect step for them after last year, which was frustrating, but you could see flashes. And then this year they're taking a step on that. Can you guess who is number 4 currently in the NHL of qualifying goalies in save percentage?
It's got to be Spencer Knight.
That would be Spencer Knight of the Chicago Blackhawks, behind Logan Thompson, Washington, Jacob Dobbs, Montreal, and then Connor Hellebuyck. Gosh, I hope I'm saying that right.
I think it's Hellebuck.
I honestly, and right when I said it, I think you're right.
Yeah.
There's a Y in there for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of Winnipeg, rounding out the 5 there is also Elvis Merzlinkins from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So next up at the game for the Blackhawks going to be at Calgary. They're doing a little Canada swing here. What would you like to see in that game to continue to make you feel good about this team going forward?
I wonder if they're even going to, I think they're going to play Knight. I just want to see him string together multiple, back-to-back solid goalie outings, because he's been one of the best goalies in hockey this year. Like I said, only reason we were in this game last night was because of him. Offense came out in the 3rd period, but when the game's tied, as opposed to when you're down a goal or 2, you're going to play more aggressive hockey, and that's kind of what we saw. But really want Spencer Knight to continue, performing well. And Bedard's currently on a 6-game point streak. So I want him to continue, that along, whether that be with goals, assists, just setting up plays for the guys. It's awesome to see, the Hawks be competitive again.
Yep, looking great. A lot of young talent there for the Hawks. St. Louis Blues, not as big of a season so far. They are 4-2. That makes them 8 in the Central Division. Their 3 games this past week was a 3-2 loss at Columbus, 3-2 win versus that Edmonton team that we talked about earlier.
Finally.
And then a 6-1 loss to the Capitals. Not a ton of, I think, great things coming out of that. But you did beat Edmonton again, a team, like you said, is a very consistent contender. And this is still a professional league. Any night, any given night, some team can clip a team that they should not be able to beat.
Exactly. And I like the way that you put that. because the loss to Columbus, that was their 7th straight loss. Like that was brutal. But in that game, Joe Hofer, the backup goalie, 32 saves on 35 shots, encouraging to see. And then we go to the Oilers game. Binnington stopped 26 shots. That's great. But then we go to Washington, and then both goalies play bad. 15 saves on 17 shots. That's below a 900 save percentage. Binnington, 11 saves on 15 shots. That is a .733 save percentage. That's horrible. And the cherry on top, Ovechkin scored his 900th career goal in this game. So he's already the all-time leader in goals. Got to that 900 mark. It was funny. The goalie on the Blues tried to pocket like the puck after the goal as a joke, but it's like, hey guys, we're 4-8-2. Maybe let's focus on hockey.
Funny. It'd be better as a team. No, I can see that for sure. This is another fun question I will ask you. Can you guess in goals allowed average, and this is out of 49 qualifying goalies, where Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer are in that ranking?
They have to be in the 40s. There's just no way that I feel like both of them maybe are at like 41, 42-ish area.
So Jordan Binnington, you are not far off. He is at 40 at 3.34. And then Joel Hofer bringing up the rears here at 49 at
oh my goodness.
5.02. Dead last, 5.02, which is bad anyway. But the next closest guy to 48, that's going to be Jacob Markstrom of the New Jersey Devils. He's at 4.18. So almost a full goal worse
my goodness,
than anyone else. Again, out of qualifying goalies, it's not somebody who just came in for a single period.
Right.
These are guys that get consistent time in the NHL. Not looking good from the goaltending perspective, and that's the biggest thing we've said every week. The offense for the Blues is not top tier, but it's pretty good.
Fine.
It's fine. The goaltending and the defense is not.
No, that's horrible. I knew it was bad, but it was like, it's like the meme. I knew my expectations were low, but oh my goodness, that's really bad. And that's been the issue on that losing streak. I felt like almost every game of those 7 games, they were giving up 5, 6, 7 goals, so many goals. And you can't win if you're playing from behind the whole time. That's almost impossible to get a win. Comeback wins in the NHL, I feel like, especially, are very hard because there's just not that many goals per game.
Right, exactly.
It's not like basketball where you just trade buckets back and forth. Getting a goal is very hard, and a lot of it is momentum. And when you're playing from behind, it's kind of just a recipe for disaster. So if this team is going to turn it around and find any success, it has to start with the goaltending.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll do something in terms of either pulling a guy up or trading for a guy in goal. Yeah. Just something to maybe try and light a fire here. And I guess their season is not technically over. We have seen teams come back in hockey because, like you said, momentum can be a big thing when it comes to playing on the ice. But it's a pseudo over, I guess we could say. And I wonder if they just try and get something prepped up and see if they can get a cornerstone for next year. That's all we got for hockey, basketball. We still got some NFL for you. After the break, we are giving you a Week 10 preview. One of these teams playing across the pond in Berlin. That'll be kind of fun. And then breaking down the Bears and their game against the Giants. All that. And finishing up the episode next. Welcome back here to Midwest Mashup. I'm going to call it audible real quick here just because actually we pull up Cam 4. I look how bright Ethan is compared to me. I don't know why that is or what happened because it looks great in the camera. Shout out to Zany, our producer here. You can see her in the background or foreground, or I should probably know this is a guy who works with cameras and camera shots.
I don't know.
But I just thought that was funny. Anyway, we'll move on. Colts looking to bounce back versus Atlanta. They're playing at 8:30 in the morning in Berlin. I think that's kind of fun. I know that the travel obviously sucks. Yeah. I'm sure that is a whole different thing, and equipment managers hate this more than anything. But if I was just a player from the perspective, you just get to travel and see a city that I'm sure not a lot of people get the chance to see. I think that's pretty cool.
No, definitely. And the only reason I groaned is because getting up and setting my fantasy lineups at 8.
Yeah.
Never a good thing on a Sunday. But I digress. It's a
very tough life, man. It's
dude. It's crazy. But very cool for the players. I like that they're trying to expand the game globally. And showing them the Colts offense is a great way to do that.
Especially against Colts fans in Germany, I guess.
Yeah, and against an Atlanta team that's not great. But yeah, I think this is a great chance for the Colts to kind of bounce back. Maybe force some turnovers this week, take care of the ball. I think this is a great opportunity for a get-right game for the Colts.
Totally agree. Also, to speak of fantasy, me and Ethan both 7-2 in our WCIA league.
Go,
so not to toot our own horns or anything, but I mean,
we know what we're doing.
We're in the running here. Yeah. Kevin Lighty is the other one who's 7-2. Just beat him this past week.
W.
Yeah. Hope Kevin watches that. So the key matchup I had here, and this is actually, I wrote this down before the Sauce Gardner trade happened.
Yeah.
I had Drake London versus the Colts secondary. Now, I kept that as the key matchup for a different reason. Beforehand, it was, hey, will the Colts secondary be able to survive with smaller corners? Again, Mekhi Blackman, you said it, I think, a couple of different times, but he's 5'9", 180. That is just small when it comes to guarding pretty much any receiver, but Drake London, 6'4", 215 or 220, really physical receiver. That was going to be a tough ask. Sauce Gardner, on the other hand, seems to be a perfect matchup there. A guy who's long, he's lanky, and he did say today that he is planning to play in terms of coming off of, he had concussion when he was with the Jets, has passed concussion protocol, and will be playing in this game. So now this is just instead of being a matchup where I'm like, can the Colts hang on? This is now just a really, really fun type of key factor to watch.
Yeah, Drake London's coming off a game where he had 8 or 9 catches, 3 touchdowns. He just went off. I think he had like 45 fantasy points. I do have him on one of my teams, so that was nice. But yeah, Sauce was in concussion protocol, logged a full practice yesterday, I saw, which was very encouraging. And for you to say he's coming out and saying he plans on playing this week, that is going to be one of the most fun matchups to watch in football this week. And what a great way to, have that be the first game on Sunday. It's awesome. Another key matchup for me, I think, is Jonathan Taylor versus this defensive front. I think he's going to have a get-right game.
Yes.
Absolutely. I could see him busting open for 150, 200 yards, just getting back on track. And, outside of last week, this dude's been having an MVP caliber level season. But yeah, I just think this is going to be a great opportunity for him to get rolling, which will open up the entire offense. But yeah, that Drake London, Sauce Gardner, it's going to be cinema watching that.
Yeah, and I like even to add a layer to yours with Jonathan Taylor versus the defense. I think the offensive line, we talked about how the tackles had their worst game this season. I think they can really lean on this team. Atlanta is very light when it comes to their edges. Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., they both drafted in the first round this year. They're both under 245 pounds. The D tackles they have are nothing to write home about either. And so I'm looking for the Colts to really try and lean on them and just get this run game going and let the offense flow out of that. Everything else, the play action, some of the good passing that we've seen, again, even in that Steelers game, despite the turnovers, will come out of that run game. And I think that's the big thing is, hey, just don't turn the ball over, right? You had 6 turnovers. Just make sure, like we said, that is a fluke. Make sure you're not getting these big negative plays, these penalties, and setting the Falcons up. Some stats to back that up. The Falcons are not good against the run, 29th in success rate, which again is the amount of successful run plays you have in a given game, and then 20th in rushing yards given up per play. So I look for that to be the strategy when it comes to Colts offense.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd, even he's someone that I was thinking about. I know he's been injured, but he's also another lighter guy, on the defense. And I just remember his time in Chicago. That's
former Bear,
yeah, Bears legend on the 2018 team. I'll shed a tear for that. But I just think this is a great get right for a lot of different position groups, on the Colts side and taking care of the ball. Daniel Jones's part, that's going to be huge. But I think they're going to win this game and get back on track.
I do too. We'll get into score predictions on that note. I got Colts 30, Falcons 24. I think it will be closer because, again, they have laid. This will make it 10 straight weeks of football, and you're traveling to Berlin. I think that throws a wrench in some things, but I still do trust them to get it done. What do you have?
Nice. Give me the Colts 35-14. I think they're going to be able to break this open here a little bit in the first half, get off to a strong start after a game where they made a lot of mistakes. I do think the Colts will score a couple times, but I think the Colts take this one pretty handedly.
There we go. Last one here, Bears versus Giants. This one is going to be at a normal time at noon on Fox if you are in the right viewing area. Key matchup for me, can the Bears keep the run game going? Since the bye week, they have had one of the best, if not the best, run game in all of the NFL. Rushing yards since the bye week, 145, 222, 96, and then 283 against the Bengals. We talked about whether it's going to be Nungai or Swift, whichever one it ends up being. They will be very important to be able to set up play action, what Ben Johnson wants to do as a play caller.
Absolutely. I do think that the Bears running backs are going to get their own no matter what happens, no matter who's out there. So my key matchup is actually Caleb versus this Giants secondary. I know that, in the media and every game announcer the Bears have had, they really tore Caleb apart, but I think this is another chance for him to string together a couple of big games. I think he could really torch the Giants secondary here.
It would be big just to show that consistency.
It would. And I think that that's kind of the next step for Caleb. It's like, we've seen these great games so far. Yes, there was a string of bad games there, but is he going to be able to string together a couple of very strong performances after last week when he could have easily won an offensive player of the week? I I think that this is the time that we see Caleb string together a few very nice games. So give me that as my key matchup. Caleb's really growing into his role, and I think this is a game against a team that's really struggling this year.
Yes.
For him to get going early.
Yeah, and this is a very good pass rush. I think there's another reason the run game needs to be big here. You got Abdul Carter, who has been really good this year. I didn't know this until I was listening to a different podcast talk about the rookie class. He has the same amount of pressures as Myles Garrett.
Holy smokes.
On the year. Who, I don't know if you guys have been watching football. Myles Garrett, pretty good defensive player.
Yeah, he's all right.
Best in the league, actually, is, I think, pretty solid. They're probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year if he can stay healthy. And then they have Brian Burns as well, Kayvon Thibodeau, and then Dexter Lawrence. So you want to be able to neutralize the defensive line, whether it is Caleb throwing the ball or running the ball. That is the best unit by far on this Giants team. So you got to find a way to work. And it'll be a good test for the offensive line here of the Bears getting into score. Well, actually, before we get to score prediction, anything else that you're honing in on and watching? Obviously, we hit on Caleb run game, but defensively, that was a horrific performance.
It was.
What are you watching in this game, or is it just a defense as a whole? Everyone needs to do?
I think the secondary, I think they have the opportunity to make some big plays here. Dart's a very young quarterback. He's a rookie, still trying to figure things out. Obviously, them not having Scadaboo anymore. Now they have Tyrone Tracy in that starting role. That takes away a factor of their offense where I think they may need to lean on Dart throwing the ball more. I think guys like Byard can go out there, maybe force a turnover early on, but after those turnovers, Bears offense, please learn how to convert in the red zone. Last week,
Touchdown, not field goals.
No, not exactly. And that's the difference between it being a 2-score game and a 1-score game. I just think the Bears need to get out to an early lead here and just take advantage of a team that's just, not in a great spot. And like I said before, capitalize in the red zone in the first half. That's going to be huge for them.
Love it. On the other side of that same coin, I do want to see what Austin Booker, Montez Sweat, just the edge group can do. I think you can get some pressure. And Andrew Thomas, left tackle for the Giants, has been playing out of his mind this year. And so you got a guy that you're going to beat as a top 5 tackle in the league. Go get it done. Make sure that they make them right, the GM right, for not trading for an edge, the level of Trey Hendrickson, Myles Garrett, and the other guys. Score prediction for me, I got Bears 28, Giants 21. Where are you at for this game?
Man, that's a fairly high scoring game, but I have the Bears 42-27. I think the Giants are gonna get theirs a little bit, but dude, with the way the Bears played last week and against a struggling Giants team who does have some good defensive players, I just feel like Caleb is feeling himself right now, and the Bears are gonna pick up right where they left off last week. Give me the Bears scoring 40+ points in back-to-back weeks.
That would be a very fun game to watch again, and might finally get the media in Chicago to just accept it.
And I hope so.
No, probably they'll figure out a way to just make that.
They always do.
Tyson Bagent in there. Thank you guys for watching. Again, we were talking during the break. We have no idea how we just got through all of that. Now with so much stuff, but thank you for being along.
It was great.
Every single part of it. Ethan, thank you for talking alongside me. Zane, thank you for producing. So I showed on cam for the first time. Boom, there we go.
Let's go. It takes a team.
Introduction. It does take a team, really. And so thank you to everyone here at WCI for putting this together. Zane producing. Ethan and me get to look good on the camera. And thank you guys again for watching. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for the shout out, guys.
Now we got King 4. We gotta
I
utilize
forget
that.
that we can use it. So good call on that. It's like a little blurry sometimes, or just
Not the best ball.
not the best quality. So that's why I haven't really played around with it too much. But I think when we get to the breaks,